Hi everyone, I'm doing something a bit unusual this time. Instead of demonstrating something, a while back I was asked by somebody whilst in a friend's sugarcraft shop about pricing up cakes. She was asking the prices of some of the cakes that my friend had on display, and it seemed to me that, and judging by some of the prices that people charge that I've seen online, that a lot of people don't seem to understand how much work goes into all of your work, all your flowers, your cakes, everything else. So what I thought I'd do today is run through the way that I price up a cake and the way that I started when I first started doing cakes 30 odd years ago. First of all, you need to take into account your ingredients. You need to price up everything that you've got for whatever kind of cake it is that you're making. You also need to take into account the amount of fuel that you're using to bake your cakes, whether it's gas or electricity. If you're not sure about that, phone up your power company and have a word with them. They can usually give you an idea of how much it will cost per hour for whatever gas or electricity that you're using. Also, you need to take into account your time as well. Everything that we do needs to be done on an hourly basis. If you went out and hired a plumber or an electrician or anybody like that, then they would be charging you on an hourly basis. And also as well, bear in mind as well, if you're working for somebody else, they have to pay you an hourly rate as well. So that should be taken into account with everything that you do. Now, in some cases, like making sugar flowers, just making them on their own, the price that it would cost to make the flowers, you probably wouldn't get back anyway. So you need to be sure that when you're doing flowers on a cake, that you're making enough profit on the cake to cover the amount of time it's taking you to make the flowers as well. So, here's how I do it. Cost of your ingredients. That's the first thing. Cost of your power for baking your cake and the time that it takes to do it. Once you've done your cake, then the next thing you need to do then is to weigh your board, put your cake on the board, weigh that, and then you need to keep a note of this, so make sure you've got a pad at the side of you and write everything down. Now then, depending on how you're doing your cake, whether you're covering it with marzipan or buttercream or ganache or whatever it is, obviously again pricing up all of your ingredients, cover your cake, weigh it and put that down. So then you've got your difference between the weight of your cake and whatever you've covered it. Then after you've of course you would do a crumb coat, and then you would do your second coat on it as well. So what I would do is weigh it in between, so you've got the weight with your crumb coat on and then the weight with your next coat on. Then the next step then is to cover your cake. Depending on how you're doing it, whether it's going to be a buttercream cake, a sugar paste cake, or whether it's going to be covered in ganache or whatever your final coat is, then you need to put that on and weigh it again and price that up in comparison. So if you're buying in a supermarket, say for instance, for the sake of argument, a block of sugar paste, and you're buying 100 grams and that covers your cake, it was an 18 cake, you probably might just about get away with that. So then there's that price added onto your list of parts of your cake. The next thing you need to take into account then is any decoration that you're going to do on your cake. So obviously if you're going to do piping on your cake, then there's the cost of your royal icing. And all the time you're doing this, you're also keeping a record of the time it takes you to do each job. Now obviously, the more experienced you become at it, then the quicker you'll get at it. So that way, that can be taken into account as well. But what I would do is I would keep your hourly rate at whatever you started at and then continue on with that. And then you need to, what I do is I have a basic price for the cake. So say for instance I'm doing a wedding cake, then a 3-tier wedding cake, 6, 8 and 10, I've got it down as £300. Then on top of that, it's whatever decoration you're going to do on your cake. Now some things take longer than others. although the ingredients may not cost as much, it's more down to the time it takes you to do it as well. So not only have you got the cost of the royal icing you've made up, or the sugar paste that you're using, or mixture of sugar paste, flour paste for moulds and things like that, all that has to be taken into account. Another thing to remember as well is if you have to go out and buy something specifically for that cake, something that you may use over and over again, you may only use it once, what I would suggest that you do is to price that in with the cake that you're buying it for, just in case you don't get enough orders on it and get more wear out of that particular item. It may be a stencil that you've had to buy especially for the cake, or a mould, or whatever that may be. You have to take that into account because it all comes at a cost. And then of course everything that you do now along the line, now that you've got all your ingredients, whatever you're going to put on, ribbons, and I use Diamante trims and that, which are quite expensive. I mean, they're about, the retail at around about £7 or £8 a metre. So things like that need to be taken into account. It only takes 2 minutes to put it on, so I don't bother so much with the time with that. The main reason for the time factor is how it takes you from beginning to end once you start decorating your cake. That's where your time comes into the price. So say for instance you buy yourself some dummies and practice a dummy and do it that way to start off with. That will give you a better idea of the time that it takes you to actually cover a cake and decorate the cake once you've got all your underlayers on it. And that will give you a good idea where to start for your basic price before you start adding all your other decorations on and things like that. I mean, even things like silk flowers, I mean, I tend to prefer really good silk flowers. I don't buy cheap ones, I buy really good ones, and they can be quite expensive. I did a cake a while back, a 5-tier cake with silk flowers on it. It cost me nearly £100 for the flowers. So that's another thing that you need to take into account as well. I had to go to the wholesalers to get them, so that it's time there and time back, you know. So you have to think about all these, and everything that you use or buy, there has to be a profit margin on it. That's how businesses work. So everything that you do, right from start to finish, main things to remember: how much your ingredients cost, how much time it takes you to do whatever it is that you're doing, and then on top of things that you've trimmed your cake with, if it's something that you haven't made, then you need a profit margin on that as well. I mean, obviously the Diamante trims that I mentioned earlier, I don't pay that for them. They are a bit less to me because I go to a wholesaler. But not everybody has the chance to go to a wholesaler. You may not be able to get in if you're not a registered business. A lot of wholesalers these days need to prove that you are a business before they will deal with you. So if you can't, then you're going to have to go to a haberdashery shop or something like that, where you would pay more for it, probably the £7 or £8 a metre, or whatever it is that you're using. So you need to take that into account. If you can buy things in bulk, that's better, because that way you tend to get things a little bit cheaper. So that's another thing to look into when you're doing your cakes. So I hope you found this chat interesting and informative. If you have any comments about anything that I've talked about, then you can leave the comments below on my page. And don't forget to subscribe to the page. It's free to subscribe, and you will be notified when I upload new videos onto my channel. I am looking into doing some new videos that I'm going to add up recently. I've been a little bit dormant just lately because I've been putting my Christmas decorations up, and it takes me quite a while to do that because I do tend to go over the top. So what I might do is I might even put a video on there of my Christmas decorations and my lights at night, just to show you what I do. I change it every year. I have different colour schemes from one year to another. People think I'm mad because my loft is full of Christmas decorations, but there we are, that's another story. So anyway, like I say, if you've got any comments or any questions you'd like to ask, or if you've got any ideas or anything you'd like to see me do, don't forget to leave the comments in the section below the video, and look forward to seeing you all again in the next video, so take care and stay safe.